Hello and welcome to the Copycat Stitch podcast, and welcome also to all of the new subscribers and new faces we have around here. We are glad to have you. This podcast is going to be a little dense. I have not sat down obviously since like September, but I feel like I had a whole bunch of rapid fire events happening and just things to take care of. You know, life got in the way. I have finished objects. I have basically all new projects or for works in progress. Audrey's here. You don't normally get to see Audrey because she's not as affectionate as Annie, but she's in here messing with my stuff and distracting me. Annie's coming in too. But do you want to see Audrey quick before she hates to be picked up? Oh. That is absolutely what I get for trying to pick up a cat against her will. Would you like to come in, ma'am? We're doing a podcast. Okay. Anyway, I have a couple finished objects. Honestly, I feel like I'm forgetting things because it's been so long since I sat down to do this. I'm not sure if I have everything here. I have a lot of acquisitions. I'm not going to cover things I covered in my Rhinebeck videos because if they're already on the channel, I don't think I need to talk about them again. And that would take all day because I got a bunch of stuff at Rhinebeck. So I'm going to talk about the one acquisition I got since then. I'm going to skip thrifted acquisitions because, again, I just don't think I have enough time, and I do intend to make a separate video about those. But the reason I haven't come out with a thrift haul lately is because thrifting is just fewer and farther between this time of year. I don't have weekly garage sales or, rummage sales or things like that where I'm picking up a lot of things. So I have a small pile of things to show you, but I'm just not quite at the threshold where I would film a video about it yet. But like I said, I do have plenty to talk about anyway. So let's get into it. Obviously, my first finished object is my Norma sweater that I'm wearing right now. And I love this so much. This was instantly one of my favorite finished objects from the moment that I bound off and wove the ends in, which was the moment I finished knitting because I was very, very excited to get this finished object in my wardrobe. I love it so much. I had so much fun working on it with leftover yarn, and it was almost entirely stashed. I say almost because I did end up buying another skein of Lion Brand Fisherman's Wool, which is the main color I used. This natural color is Lion Brand Fisherman's Wool in the colorway Oatmeal. And like I talked about in my distant most recent podcast, this was kind of a compulsive cast on based entirely out of stash. So I had nearly two. I had I would say 1.9 skeins, and they're large skeins. They're not 100 grams of this fisherman's wool left from the Aran cabled jumper that I made my husband recently. I had just finished. And then both of my contrast colors here were partial skeins. One was left over from a prior project and one I acquired partial from the thrift store. And I just love the contrast. I love the palette of this sweater. There is color work, and I've really been enjoying woolly wool color work, as I've said a lot recently, but it's not even remotely intense. It's so simple. It's just 1x1 or stripes, basically. But it has that potato chippy nature of stripes combined with the even subset potato chippy nature of a stripe within a stripe. There's a couple rounds of the 1x1 rib, and then there's so many rounds of stripe, and then there's some more 1x1 rib, and then there's a chunk of solid main color, but it's so addictive. And I just found that I made this sweater so fast and love doing it so much. And honestly, I would have done it faster, but when I started to get down towards the bottom, I realized I was probably going to run out of the main color. Not probably, I certainly would have. I did do the sleeves first, thinking that I could crop the body if that was the case. But then once it came down to it, I didn't want to crop the body. I wanted the same fit that I saw in the sample photos and in other people's project photos on Ravelry. And I wasn't willing to compromise on that. And I thought, honestly, I have been so enjoying fisherman's wool on this project and the previous project that I used this quantity on, that why shouldn't I just have another one, right? What is the harm in buying another skein and only using 20% of it and then having some more in stash because obviously I've been enjoying it and I'm probably going to use it again. So I just did it. I ordered it online and then I had to wait, I think 3 or 4 days for it to show up. So honestly, this sweater would have been done 3 or 4 days earlier, except I had to wait for the remainder to come in the mail. And when it did, I alternated skeins for the rest of the garment. Actually, I think I did underestimate how much I had left when I decided to buy more yarn, but I stopped when I still had a good amount of the last skein left because I was afraid of dye lot clashing and I wanted to alternate in the new one. I don't know if it's obvious at all. I don't think it's obvious where the alternating skein starts, but around, I think, in this last solid section between the last 2 contrast stripes here, I started alternating in the new one. I used up the last of these colors, and then I ended up alternating all the way down, even through the ribbing. I didn't run out of the old one. Now, obviously, starting at that point, I was only using the old one for half of the rounds, so I would have run out sooner if I hadn't used the new one, so I still needed to. But I thought it was interesting that I never ran out and was wholly using the new skein. And whatever, I've got some stash yarn now. Less stash yarn than I did before I started. The rest of all the yarn in this sweater was stash yarn. So a great joy to knit. I loved the pattern. I love the motif. I love the fit. And it's just one of my favorites. Like I said, instant favorite. I love it so much. And I have nothing negative to say about this project. My next finished object, as you might have noticed in my Rhinebeck videos, is my Salty Days sweater. I did finish it and have it all blocked and ready to go before Rhinebeck, so I did wear it one day at Rhinebeck. I don't love the fit. I kind of found a way to style it and wore it anyway. That said, it was a chilly day at Rhinebeck and I had my jacket on the entire day and I don't think anybody could really see it anyways. It was under my jacket and under a scarf and I had a backpack on. It was quite obscured. I love the yarn. I love the yarn in this stitch pattern. It's just that the fit is off. And I talked extensively last time about my confusion when it came to the sizing for Kutavakika patterns. So I'm not gonna get into that a lot again, because I don't need to reiterate the whole thing. But the issue I have is that for my bust size, I'm not a consistent size within her patterns. Some patterns I'm a small, some patterns I'm a large. I think with this one, based on the information offered in the pattern and the measurements included in the description, it said someone with my bust size should make a small. Rationally, I know I'm not a small. I never make a small. I almost always make a large, but I don't know about the gauge. I was working with a relatively small quantity of yarn that was only just enough to make the pattern in the first place, and I didn't want to bite off more than I can chew and make a larger size and then run out of yarn. So I just made a small. I wish I hadn't. I wish I had made a medium or a large because it is small. It's not too small. I can wear it, but this garment is meant to be oversized and this is really much more form-fitting than I would like. This has maybe 1 or 2 inches of positive ease and I think it should be closer to 8 or 10. I don't want to bash Kika's sizing because I don't think there's necessarily anything inherently wrong with it. I just think it's confusing. And I also noted last time that while the pattern says for this bust size, make this size, the sample photos that she shows and that she's modeling, she's always made a larger size for herself than the instructions would say to make for somebody that size. So take that for what you will. I mean, I don't know if I have any advice to offer here, just that I'm a little confused and frustrated after making a couple of her patterns incidentally at the same time. I have 2 more in my whip pile that we'll talk about, but like I said, just a little confused and disappointed that this didn't come out how I expected it to because I trusted the instructions more than my instinct. Anyway, it's not bad. It just takes a special hand at styling and it's not what I expected. Anyway, this yarn is so pretty, so autumnal. And I think I talked last time about how, while it looks kind of this like gold from a distance, the yarn itself is this like deep yellow with these flecks of like quite bright orange. And sometimes In some spots, it's like neon orange, but it kind of marls, you know, it doesn't marl. I didn't marl the yarns, but to the eye from a distance, the flecks kind of blend together and look like this super warm, it appears marled, is what I'm trying to say. And I think it's a great yarn, and I do like the gauge that I made this at, which was not recommended. You're supposed to hold a fluff with this to get DK, and this yarn was labeled as a DK on its own. I do love the fabric it created. I just wish there was more of it. Now I do have another finished object that it's very small. This is something that I made in like 2 days, and I'm not quite pleased with it. I don't remember what the pattern is called, so here's the info for you. But I wanted to make myself a hot water bottle cover. Several of the influencers that I watch regularly use hot water bottles, and I'm always thinking about it because I think I would get a lot of use out of that. I am a chronically cold person and snuggle up intensely every night when I'm like watching television after dinner kind of thing, usually with a dog or two. And I know that I would get a lot of use out of a hot water bottle. I had one 2 years ago. I made hot water bottle covers for some relatives for Christmas, and I bought a 3-pack at that time online. So, you know, I knit the cabled covers for them, gifted those off for Christmas, and then I kept that 3rd water bottle telling myself I would make a cover for it, and I kept forgetting and putting it off, and I never did until now. So I pulled it out, went into stash. I thought, what a great opportunity to grab a couple partial skeins from stash, do a little stash busting, make a hot water bottle cover, and I'll just have this nice wintry hot water bottle. Because, like, to be honest, my house is already Christmas. My house is 100% Christmas. I decorate for Christmas early, and I go hard. I'm not gonna lie, it took me 4.5 days to decorate my house, and it was really stressful, and I had at least one meltdown. But it looks great now, and it's happy and festive now, and I wanted a happy festive hot water bottle cover. So to do that, I went stash diving. I picked some yarns. I don't think I chose my yarns poorly. They are both 100% wool, non-superwash. They're both worsted, and the colors go well together, but I regret the pattern choice. So let me show you how it came out first of all. Now, when I was looking at the sample photos at other people's Ravelry projects, I noticed that some of them had this effect. And to me, it's really messy. And I think it's kind of throughout the colorwork pattern, but it's really egregious up here in these bits. And I should have taken more care when choosing my pattern to realize that if I don't like how it looks in the sample photos, I'm probably not gonna like how it comes out when I make it. However, I noticed some of the photos look like this and some didn't, and I wrote it off as maybe the people that made those samples were inexperienced at color work. That was not the case. Or maybe it was, but I don't know that that was the case because I don't think I'm that inexperienced at color work, and this looks the same. And now, having done it myself and watched it unfold, I know what happened. I chose the pattern because it was free, because I was in a hurry to kind of cast on a little short, joyful project, and I wanted to do it right away. And because it's such a small thing, I didn't want to buy a pattern for a hot water bottle cover just to make something for myself out of scraps. I wanted one with a sort of Nordic star pattern on it, and that's why I chose this. The issue, now that I've worked it, is that there's this motif that does sort of like diagonal lines in between the Nordic stars, and they're just single stitches with long floats in between. And it's absolutely clear to me now that the reason that it looks like this and so messy and those stitches totally recede into the fabric and disappear is because when you stretch it over the hot water bottle, those long floats are basically like pulling taut, and that stitch is just getting pulled straight in between, and it's pulling the row above and below it together and kind of just totally eclipsing a lot of those contrast color stitches. I don't think there's a way around that. I mean, if I had done my stitches more loosely, the tension would be off and it would look bad. I just think it was an odd design choice. I think it was a poor design choice. And I'm not trying to trash this designer. This was a free pattern, almost certainly something that somebody threw together for themselves and then was gracious enough to write up and distribute as a PDF for free online, which is great. And it's a functional water bottle cover, and it largely looks okay. It's still got the Nordic star. Some of these other motifs came out great. It's not bad. That part of the motif does bother me. I don't like how untidy it looks and uneven it looks when these stitches have receded and gone away. So I have been using it. I am enjoying having a hot water bottle cover, and this cover does function. However, I will probably be making another one at some point. Now Laura Penrose has designed the one that's like basically Nordic stars in a different pattern, all with larger blocks of color. And I think that one looks so good. So I might end up buying myself a pattern to do it anyway, just because that one is basically exactly what I wanted. I guess I should have known to wait for that one in the first place. I'll keep using this one in the meantime, but there you go. I'm dissatisfied, but that doesn't mean I failed, right? It still works. I learned something. Moving on. Let's start with the projects that you have seen, and then we'll move on to the ones you haven't. So the ones you have seen are all for myself, and the ones you haven't seen are all holiday gifts, actually. I've got these same two projects that I feel like I've been working on forever, but I just keep getting distracted by more seasonal things or by shiny new things and not wrapping these up. So this is, I don't remember what this one's called. Goodness, I don't remember what this pattern's called. It's another Kuta Vakika pattern. It's from her more recent book. This is a cotton yarn. I believe it's a Mako cotton from Juniper Moon that I got on clearance. You're going to see all three. So when I went to my local yarn store for their semi-annual clearance sale a couple months ago, I bought 4 project quantities. The first one I turned into my work bag. I knit, I think it was called the Everyday Bag. So you've seen that already. I finished that a while ago. I use it as my work bag. Excellent. Loved that. The other 3 quantities that I bought were all for sweaters for myself, and all 3 of them are my in-progress projects that you've already seen. And they're all nearing completion to different degrees. But I'm disinclined to work on this one because I'm enjoying other things more, even though this one is so close to the end. So you can see on the bottom, and it looks terrible right now because it's curling up, but I think blocking will do a lot for this, that instead of ribbing, it has this sort of mini cable pattern around the bottom, which looks so cool. This is one of the main reasons I wanted to make this. Now I've got it on the cuff here too. Super cute, super crisp. These look amazing. I love them. They are such a horrible pain to work, and I hate working on them so much that I have put off finishing this 95% finished sweater for weeks. Now I've got partially, I'm already on the ribbing cables on this side, and maybe a quarter to a third of the way through it, and I haven't touched this in so long because it's so fiddly and there are just so many cables, and I just hate the act of working on it. But again, I love how it looks and I want it, but I don't know. I'm just really struggling with motivation on this one. I have found that this is a great use of my flexi flips. These are the ones that I had wanted to try for a while. They from Addie. Oh, I thought the third one was in here. This is the container they come in. I don't know. The third one's in the bag somewhere. But basically, instead of a set of 5 double-pointed needles or a small circular circumference, it's kind of the best of both worlds because it is just 3 needles that are on little flexible bits of cord. They're basically like fixed circulars, except the cord is like 1 inch long, just enough to give them the give in the middle to give you a circumference like this. So it's like working with DPNs, except there's only 3 of them and your work is split into 2 instead of 3 or 4. And I just think they're so great and so much easier to work with. Another detail about them that I love that I didn't notice until I was working on them, and it's so subtle, I don't know if it'll be able to pick up on camera. But can you see that these needles are the same. They're from the same set of 3 and they're the same size, but each needle has 2 different tips. So this one on your right is pointier and the one on your left is slightly blunter. And that's so handy because, you know, depending on which one you need for the project you're on, you just flip it around the other way when you're working, you know, when you finish working and you're switching to the next needle, you just flip it to the one you prefer. Like from this project, I definitely prefer the pointier one because getting in and around all these little cables is really tight. So I think that's such a thoughtful detail of Addie to not just choose one and, you know, stick you with whatever they decided was most applicable. They gave you the option of having both. Such a great detail. So anyway, once I finish this several inches of cuff, literally all that's left to do is pick up and knit the collar, which is not the cabled stuff. It's just a regular collar. I just never got around to doing that yet, which is odd because I tend to do that quite early on in my projects. But yeah, it's not much farther along. It's called Take Me Out. Now I remember. Whatever. Something I'll like to have, but it's not the most seasonal. Probably something I'll like to wear. I could layer it in winter, but it'll be a nice spring and fall piece too because it's lightweight and the color and everything. But I don't know. The desire to have the finished object is not overcoming the undesire to work on it in this case. Okay, so my next oldest one, it's not the farthest along though, is Playful Palette. It's from the same book, also by Kuta Vakika, and it's actually, they go in order in the book. So if you're flipping through, these 2 patterns are back to back in the book, which I didn't do on purpose. I chose them based on Ravelry, based on these quantities I bought from my local yarn store, like I said. This one is also a Juniper Moon Farm for the main color. This is their Blueface Leicester base. And I love it. I've talked about this before. All of the contrast colors were just from Stash. I think they look great. I really, really quite love it. There is a line because I did block it after I finished the yoke just to make sure it was big enough. Having the same issue with this one that I had with the Salty Days. The pattern told me to make a small. I thought that was odd, but I did it anyway. This is going to have a similar issue. It's going to be a lot more tight fitting than I thought it was when I set out to make it because it's not going to have the positive ease. Now maybe honestly me having this problem is a me problem and I'm reading them wrong, but I, you know, triple, quadruple checked and read these because I didn't understand why I would be a small. So I don't know. I've also had issues with not the actual patterns, but the Ravelry descriptions of the patterns for Kuta Vakika patterns are inconsistent insofar as like which weight of yarn you need. Because sometimes it tells you the weight of the yarn that you're holding double instead of the weight of the combined yarns to get the final gauge. So for instance, it'll say that a project uses a fingering weight yarn, but in reality, you're holding a fingering and a mohair together to get a DK. So in my experience, usually Ravelry in that case would say DK because that's ultimately what you need to get the project gauge. But sometimes the Kuta Vakika patterns, and it's probably not just her, I've just noticed it on her descriptions on Ravelry. Sometimes they say the yarn itself as opposed to the gauge you need. Again, just, I don't know why, maybe it's just because I don't normally work 3 of one designer's patterns at the same time and I've done an undue amount of comparing them. I don't know. Anyhow, this one might not be as oversized as I wanted it to be, but it does fit. I did try it on after I did the yoke. I think it'll be fine. The yoke is blocked. Like I said, it's not blocked below that. So all of this fabric down here has not been yet. So I think that'll loosen up nicely. This half twisted rib at the bottom was unpleasant to do. I don't like half twisted rib in the first place. And this kind of, it's woolly. This BFL is woolly. So that texture, getting those really tight little stitches, did not enjoy. But I do like the texture of it as a finished item. I like the fabric. So again, this is only half blocked. Obviously haven't picked up for the sleeves yet, but they're on hold here. So it should be pretty straightforward. Yeah, I quite like this one. This is obviously a much more wintry sweater than the last one I discussed. So I have been working on this one more lately. I did the entire ribbing in the last like week or so. Yeah. Should proceed with that one, but like always, it's November, so I've started to derail my progress on my personal projects by starting a bunch of gift knits, which we'll talk about. I've got 3 of them here, but I have dialed it back a lot this year. Virtually no garments. I'm only making 1 garment. It's almost entirely accessories or small things, because I have a tendency to take away from my own enjoyment of the holiday by being overambitious and trying to make too many holiday gifts and then running out of time. And then at the same time, I'm depriving myself of the projects that I'm working on for myself, that I enjoy working on for myself. And it all kind of snowballs together, as I'm sure you've seen, because you've seen Vlogmas's past where, you know, I have a mental breakdown over a blanket or something like that. I'm not doing that this year, just doing some small projects. And I have been trying to push through them now to kind of get through that go, 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 crank these out mentality, because the sooner I have some of them done, the better I'll feel going into December and being able to like actually enjoy the holiday season. Also, we're not having Christmas on Christmas Day in my family this year, and I don't know when we're going to see our friends around Christmas either. And there's just like a part of my anxious millennial brain that is constantly panicking because I don't actually know the deadlines for any of my gifts yet. Like, what if they decide they want to have Christmas like December 8th? I have to be ready just in case. I don't have to, but you know what I mean? I'm like low-key anxious about it and working on them extra because I don't actually know exactly when I have to have them done by. All right. Anyway, we're not to gifts yet. This last one has been pure joy to work on. Now, this is my Lakes pullover. You will have seen it if you watched my Rhinebeck vlog, because I cast this on to take with me on my Rhinebeck trip. And I didn't really work on it at Rhinebeck because I didn't take it with me during the day, but I had it at my Airbnb. It was my project while I was editing and just trying to unwind in between the festivals, trying to figure out how to voice this thought. I don't think there's anything wrong with this project. I love the yarn. Love the yarn. I'm very much enjoying working with it. I think what's keeping me going on this project, and the reason that it's been my darling lately, is the yarn. And I love Noro, and this one is an especially soft and fun to work with Noro, and I love the color and all of the you know, fluctuating variations in the color, and I'm truly in love with the yarn. I really quite like the pattern. There are a couple things that I question about it, but I like it as well. I think perhaps the thought that I'm trying to articulate is that this yarn and the texture of this yarn and the gauge of this yarn is maybe not what the pattern intended. I think it's making something incredible that I'm going to love anyway, but I think the fit and the texture and finesse of this pattern is a little at odds with what I've selected, just because this yarn is thick and thin and it has so much texture and differentiation in it, that it's maybe not meant for this super polished pattern. Again, I don't regret anything. I don't want this to sound like this isn't how I wanted it to come out. I'm trying to say this as a caveat. Like, I don't think this is what Ozetta intended, but I love it for what it is. And at the same time, I'm kind of thinking I'll probably make this pattern again in the future in a more solid, standard, even yarn, because I think it would be an entirely different garment, because the fabric it creates would be so different from what I've made here. Anyway, here we are. I mean, last time you saw it, it was basically a yoke. Do you believe this? I've been loving it so much. This yarn is so freaking soft. I can't get over it. It's so squishy. But like I said, it's so thick and thin, it varies a lot. There was a spot on this sleeve that's basically, when I was knitting with it, it got so thin. This pattern is meant for like worsted or Aran weight yarn. I think it might be Aran. But this yarn is so thick and thin that it truly fluctuates. It mostly hovers around DK to worsted range, like 90% of the time. But sometimes there are these like extended almost slubs where it gets to be bulky range. And there was one section towards the end of this sleeve. Oh, here, I found it. Where the yarn got so thin, it was basically a fingering weight. It was a light fingering. And I was like, this sleeve is gonna have a draft just from this. I don't know if you can see it here. It's like right here. The yarn got just so thin for like a round and a half. I mean, I can see holding it up like this, looking at the back side, I can see through this bit. I can see the light come through it because there's like basically around here that's like almost eyelet levels because it's so thin compared to the rest of the yarn. But that's the joy of it. That's the artfulness of Noro, I think. Anyway, I'm all turned around here. The Lakes Pullover is a saddle shoulder. So you start by knitting the saddles. You pick up along the back and do the back panel. Then you pick up along the front and do 2 front panels that you join together and then join under the arms. And then when you come back, you're picking up stitches along the edge, knitting the saddle stitches that already exist, and then going in the round for the sleeves. So this part is much smoother than this, but I think this will block out, and this sort of ridge won't be as pronounced once I block it. But yeah, I love it so far. I especially love there's these like splotches of this like forest green, and they're few and far between. But honestly, that's my favorite part. Like I love these like green stripes. There's another one. Oh, these colors are great. I love this. I think this is already reminding me of like an old fast fashion sweater that I have that I bought like 10 years ago that I still wear all the time because I love the fit of, and it's got like this big squishy double folded collar and this oversized boxy fit. And so far, this reminds me so much of that. I think I'm going to get a lot of wear out of it, but like a lot more wear because this is something I made, and it's made out of this like gorgeous, soft, beautiful yarn combo. Like I love it. That said, I love the pattern with a slight modification, and that is when you're picking up for the sleeves. I don't understand why Ozetta did this, and I just didn't do it as written because I don't get it. There might have been a purpose to it that I just don't understand, but I skipped it and did it the other way, and I don't think there was any adverse effects, so I don't understand why. But like I said, you knit these saddles first, you put the saddle stitches on the end on hold, and then you work the whole body of it, and you come back, and once you have a body, the instructions say, you know, pick up a certain amount of stitches, here's the rate you pick them up at along the side, and then it says, break the yarn, slide all of these stitches from the saddle onto your needles, reattach new yarn, and pick up stitches along the other side, and then join in the round. And then you go back and work short rows. So it's got a sort of short row cap here. It's not super deep. I don't know if you can see it based on the like striations in my variegated yarn, but there's like a short row cap that's like, I don't know, wedge shaped here, where you're going almost all the way around. And I just don't understand why the pattern designer has you break the yarn and reattach the yarn there. Like, to me, that's just several unnecessary ends when you can literally pick up these stitches, knit these stitches, and then pick up these stitches and not create those ends. And truly the only difference is that there's one more row on the saddle section. And I don't think it made enough of a difference to change the shape, or I don't understand. Maybe there's a reason, but I disagreed, so I did it differently. So there we go. Like, you can look how different the saddle color was. It was so like white and light toned and when I did the saddle, and then by the time I picked up these other sections, oh, it's just so fun. I'm just enjoying this one so much. And honestly, like I started this sleeve last night, so I did all the short rows, and the sleeve does taper. I'm sure you can see when I hold out the finished one, it tapers quite a bit. There's sleeve shaping the whole way down, so it gets faster as you decrease every few rounds. And yeah, I would be shocked if this one isn't done by the end of this weekend where I'm filming this, because this is all I've wanted to work on, and it's so close to being done, and I so much want to wear it that I have been working on it over some of my Christmas projects. I've been alternating. I have been working on my Christmas projects, but I have a feeling that one's going to get done very, very soon. So now let's talk about some gift knits. Now, first of all, I have already warned my loved ones, you know, via text, but in case, just in case somebody snuck in, hey, if you know I'm going to knit you something, please don't watch this. Don't ruin Christmas just because of a video. Thank you. Bye. Lovely to see you. So first of all, this one is not even for Christmas. It's for my mom's birthday, because you might remember if you've been around before, my birthday is December 13th. My mom's is December 14th. So both of our birthdays get kind of bundled together, and they're right in near Christmas anyway. So I always make my mom something for her birthday, but that always piles on because I'm always doing it right in the middle of making things for the holiday. So I chose this year, this pattern. I forget, I saw it on some sort of pattern roundup. It is these gorgeous mittens. And okay, I looked up how to pronounce it and I kind of don't remember. I think it's Quairang. It's a place in Scotland. These mittens are called Quairang Mittens. And I just thought this construction was so interesting. I don't remember which pattern roundup I saw it on, but I remember saving them to my Ravelry wish list at that time because I instantly thought, I want to make these for my mom. This is something that I can make with yarn that I have in stash, and it's intricate and interesting and functional. And I mean, it's a small item, but the gauge is so small that it's taking a lot of time and effort to do them. So I think it's a thoughtful gift. So the Quairang mittens are basically knitting 4 mittens to make 1 pair, because you knit a lining, and this for me is the lining. This is the contrast color that I chose to be the lining. And then you go back to this provisional cast on where you can see I've got scrap yarn here, and you pick up those stitches and you knit a whole nother mitten in the other direction, and then you fold the lining inside the other one and you have a double thick layer. So it's a fingering weight yarn. So it's basically 2 layers of thin fingering weight fabric to make 1 pretty insulated mitten. And the thing that's great about it is that the outside pattern has this pretty lace on it, but you're not getting the draft of having lace because you've got the inner layer of your mittens. So this lining color is, the provisional edge is hard. It's not going to be that hard to pull on when it's done, but the provisional crochet cast on is taut. So the yarn that I used for the lining is Knit Picks Palette. I have a ton of that left over from that temperature blanket I did for my sister and her husband a few years ago. I've got like 6 or 7 colors left over. Keep working through it. I think this one is almond, if I'm not mistaken. Now this is a little snug on me. I wouldn't like to wear this, but this is unblocked, and also my mom's hands are smaller than mine, so I think they're going to be just right. But you can see that if you look close, I wove my ends in on this side because this is the part it's going to be least visible because this is the outside. So this is the right way that it'll be worn, but there's going to be a whole nother layer of mitten here, so you won't see any of those ends. And I'll show you, I finished the other one, so I'll show you that in a minute. But just for context, this is what the mitten lining looks like. It's got this, is it broken rib? I don't remember. This textured rib on the cuff, and then just a stockinette mitten and fingering weight wool. The Knit Picks palette is unprocessed. I mean, it's processed, that's not what I mean to say. It's untreated, it's non-superwash. So it's this nice woolly layer to keep warm. And then once you pick up those provisional cast on stitches, I chose this navy blue. Now this is, I don't remember, it's from Cascade Yarns, I believe. I made a mini mock neck top for myself a couple years ago out of this. And I bought 2 skeins and I only used 2.5. So this is a superwash wool, but it's super smooth and soft. And this is what it looks like. Again, this is unblocked, but this is what it looks like. So you can see there's this lace pattern on the back, and let me try to get my hand in it. It's even more snug with the second layer on, but it looks dumb with my watch here. But you can kind of see that lace pattern. And I think the contrast of these works really well to have the light lining, and then you can see through all the eyelets there. And it's such a smooth, nice fabric to have on the outside. All of the ends are, you know, nice and hidden inside. I think, again, I just think they're such a lovely gift because it is a quite small gauge. It does take a lot of time and effort to make such an intricate thing, and you're basically knitting 4 mittens just for 1 pair. But I think they're going to be so nice and so useful. Love them. And honestly, my second sock syndrome didn't even kick in until I was like 75% of the way done, because I was so keen to, I made myself do both of the linings first because I knew I wouldn't want to do the second lining. So I made myself do 100% of both linings first, and then I went back to do the outer part for this one. And I was so keen to see what it would look like once it was done, because you really can't flip the lining inside and see what it looks like until it's 100% done. So, you know, I really rushed through it because I wanted to see the result, and then now it's been hard to go back and do this. But I have a month to knit this last step, the last quarter of this project, so I'm sure it'll be done in plenty of time. And look, I didn't even mean to do this, but I don't know if you recognize this basket. This is the one I got from that rummage sale a couple months ago, purely because it had some like sewing supplies in it. And the rummage sale was like really, really cheap, and I just threw a bunch of stuff in a bag. So it's this like gorgeous handmade basket, and the tag says it was handmade in 1998. And I never meant to use it as a project basket, but it's so perfect for this because these are so involved. This is not something that I'm going to be taking on the go with me. It's just the right size. I love it. And so aesthetic to just have around the house in like a pretty basket. All right, I have 2 more gift knits on the go here. This one is super simple. You might remember a couple years ago, maybe, yeah, mostly 2 years ago, but then last year I put the finishing touches on a Berlin scarf for myself. It was a really, really boring knit, but I really like the result, and I wear the Berlin scarf all the time. I say it's boring because even though it's a larger gauge, it's like a bulky gauge, it is in the round. You just endlessly knit in the round, this big long tube, and then at the end you flatten it out and you knit these chunky double knit fringes on the ends that I think are like what makes it stylish and what makes it cool and gives it a lot of interest. But you know, 90% of the project is just knitting this endless stockinette tube, and then making those fringes was a bit fiddly. But I just think it'd be such a nice gift for my sister. And I had this yarn in stash. So this is a Barocco Pirouette. I've had 6 skeins of this in stash for a long time. I also have 2 or 3 skeins of another colorway, and I was saving it thinking I was going to do some sort of color work or something with it, but I've never found the perfect project. It's not really enough to make a garment because they're 50-gram skeins. I don't know. Once this idea came to me, I couldn't get it out of my head. I thought it was perfect. I think this color's great. My sister tends to only wear neutrals, and this is a burgundy color, but now that I'm knitting it, it's a very brown burgundy. I'm actually super jealous. Now that I'm knitting it and I see the color it's working up as, I want this, and I'm jealous that I'm giving this away. This like very pretty burgundy brown boucle is gonna look so nice. So this is about, let's see, this is about 1.5 balls. So this is like 75 grams of my 300 grams. And it'll, you know, stretch. I'll stretch it when blocking to make it as long as possible. But it's already this like so soft, squishy, enjoyable. This is just going to be such a nice gift. It's going to be so perfect. These yarns I've had in stash for a long time. I got them on clearance at my local yarn store, Nitty Gritty Yarns. They do these clearance sales where pretty standard format. It's like everything's marked down 25% off, and then a couple weeks later it's all 50% off, and then a couple weeks later whatever's left is 75% off. And that's usually when I go, because I'm trying to get in and get affordable project quantities, which means I have less selection to choose from, but I'm getting a better price. So these were originally $12 a piece because it's a really delightful base, but I ended up paying $3 a piece for my 6 balls of that. So $18 for this gift is not bad at all. Where's the fiber content of this? Because I love it. 41% baby alpaca, 41% merino wool, and 18% nylon. It's coming out so well. I love it. And it's, even though a really boring endless stockinette tube, I did purposefully make it my on-the-go project. We had a date planned a week ago or 2 weeks ago, and I knew I was going to be sitting in a theater for a couple hours, and I purposefully cast this on earlier that day because I knew it would be perfect to just endlessly go in the round with no need to look at it or pay attention or anything. It's just go, go, go. And yeah, I'm loving it so far. I again, like, the texture is so good and the color is so good. I think it's going to be an excellent finished piece. And I am saving this as, you know, this has been my work project. This is what I bring in the car if we're going somewhere and I know I'm going to have some time to knit while Josh is driving. Like, planning ahead and knowing that, yeah, it's an endless stockinette tube, but I have all these opportunities to knit endless stockinette is so far working out for me. And I'm just kind of leaning into that, and I'm going to do that until this is done. And again, Christmas is over a month away. I don't know when we're going to be celebrating Christmas, but regardless, Christmas is like 6 weeks from now when I'm filming this, and I'm like nearly a third of the way done with this gift knit that I'm afraid will drag on and take too long. So I don't think it's a problem because I'm trying to get this stuff done early. Okay, and then speaking of, here's the last gift knit that I've already cast on. Now I think I have plans for like 5 or 6 other things. Again, mostly small. I do, if I manage to finish all of these planned things in time, I also have plans to do some smaller things like tiny accessories like scrunchies, hair bows, like that kind of thing, or decorative bows that I could gift people. But right now, I'm focusing on these bigger, crucial gift items, and then I'll double back and maybe do smaller stuff if and when I have time. So if you watch the Rhinebeck videos, you might remember this acquisition from Cakepalooza. I bought 2 skeins of this very simple red, white, and blue, delightfully soft merino. It's a super wash. I got it from the Naughty Buffalo, which is a hand dyer out of Buffalo, New York. And I did so on purpose because I knew I wanted to make Buffalo Bills matching beanies for my brother-in-law and my nephew. So like a sort of like daddy and me matching hats. They're big Bills fans and they live in Buffalo. So I thought it was perfect that I found a Buffalo-based small business to find this red, white, and blue yarn. And I have started the adult hat. So I kind of realized after I bought it that I thought it would be really nice to do it brioche style because it is red, white, and blue, but there's much more red than blue, more white than anything. But the red and blue are not equal parts. So I thought I'm going to try to go in my stash. I thought I had something different actually, but I didn't. I don't know where I thought I had leftover swish. What is it called? Knit Pick Swish. I don't know why I thought I had that. But instead I chose to use this leftover comfy cotton blend. Now, this should be familiar to you because I earlier this year finished up a cardigan that I started last year. I haven't sewn the buttons on or worn it or anything. I'm kind of sour on the project, so I've been putting it off. But I made a cardigan out of this colorway. I think, what is it called? Spectrum is the colorway name of this Lion Brand Comfy Cotton Blend. I have a skein and a half, maybe less, a skein and a quarter of this left after that cardigan. And It's blue. It's a more muted blue than is in the hand dyed, but I think that that works because then the hand dye doesn't get lost in the backdrop of this solid. And this makes a nice backdrop. Like I said, it makes a nice contrast in the background, but it does add that blue that I think was kind of missing from the hand dyed on its own, because in Brioche, it's so good. So this is just a free pattern from Pearl Soho. I'm pretty sure it's called something super simple, like 2-color brioche hat or something like that. But I chose it because it comes in all sizes. I wanted to do a brioche hat and I wanted to do matching for, you know, adult and baby. And this pattern comes in that range. So I'm making the adult size first, and then I will make the toddler sized after. But it does have enough length in it to cuff it, or to fold it up to make a cuff, I guess. That's what I mean. A brim. It's not a cuff on a hat. But here. Not really enough for you to be able to see the main color while it's folded up, but you kind of get the idea. I think it's really cute. I quite like it. And I'm having fun with it. And I really do love brioche. Every time I knit brioche, I think, why don't I do this more? It seems like a pain because, you know, you kind of have to knit every row twice, but it does go so fast, and I do get into a rhythm with it where I feel like it's quite mindless, and I really do enjoy doing brioche. So I'm glad I started this one. Another very like squishy, great texture for a gift. I'm excited to have these. I feel like I've done a pretty good job with my gift choices so far this year. Okay, and then I do have a couple acquisitions, and it's funny because I went to Rhinebeck and I spent all that money on yarn, and I like had the whole speech in my video about how, well, like I basically don't buy any commercial yarn anyway, so don't worry about it. And then I came back and I ended up buying commercial yarn, partially because I wanted a mohair to hold with one of my Rhinebeck quantities that I got, and Hobie had a sale, and then like to get free shipping from Hobie, I had to add something else, so I chose another sale yarn. So I ended up with 2 more project quantities from Hobie. This is what I bought at Rhinebeck. You might remember this from the Polywogs booth. It's this sort of rusty red, and you kind of see here, it's sort of like a DK, sport to DK size. Does it have info? Oh yeah, it says sport. It says Lana Loft Sport. It's Brown Sheep Company. It's 100% wool. And the colorway is called Ironwood. It says 1 pound cone. I love this like rusty red color. I wanted to use the Hobie Kid Silk Soft? Friends Kid Silk. I wanted to use Hobie Friends Kid Silk because it was on sale. I've used Hobie Diablo in the past and I quite like that one, but that one is like half synthetic, and I wanted to go for the Kid Silk because it's less synthetic. It might be non-synthetic. Yeah, it's 72% mohair, 25% silk, 25% wool. So there's no synthetic in the one I bought. I'm not showing you yet because I want to talk about the colorway, okay? So when I was looking through the colors of Friends Kid Silk, they didn't have this exact color. And that's okay with me because I really do like the sort of kind of marling, but kind of just natural way that a base yarn and a mohair of a slightly different color kind of marl together. I really do like the dimension it adds when the mohair doesn't exactly match the wool. So it's okay with me that they didn't have this exact color, but my choices were either like quite red, quite orange, or pink. And I'm not really a red person. I mean, I'd like, this is about as red as I go. And the problem is that the mohair would tilt it really very red, and I didn't like that idea. I didn't want it to be like a bright red sweater. I chose this because I like this color. I already have several orange sweaters, and I'm also not really an orange person. I've just ended up with a bit of orange yarn over time, and I'm at capacity for orange sweaters is my point. I don't want another orange sweater. So I decided to get the sort of mauve pink color, and here's where we are. So I think it has a lot of similar tones, but it is a bit different. And like I said, I just kind of like the effect when they're similar but marled together. They're a little different, and there's this like depth of color that comes from the difference between the two. So I got 6 balls of this Friends Kid Silk. oh, I'm not gonna be able to tell you the colorway because they only put the number on the labels from Hobie. But because it was on sale, because I, you know, check in at Hobie Bingo every week and they send you a coupon code that you can use on top of the sale, it seemed like a good opportunity. And because I had been thinking about this and what to do with this and how to use this yarn, it's on my mind. So I want to have the option to cast something on when I find the right project. So I have ideas, but I'm not sure I've found quite the right project yet. Anyway, that's one acquisition. And then in order to get free shipping from Hobie, I had to add another project quantity. Listen, I had to. What am I going to do? Pay shipping? Don't be absurd. So I chose, these were very much on sale. Black Friday wool. I think it's this year. This is not the same label that they've had in past years, so I think this is new. But it's this sort of yellowy. It's like off-white, but far more yellow. It's like a cool yellow. Almost green. I don't know. It's an off-white natural color that leans very into the yellow and green territory. I would say a yellow-green. And I'm not sure what I'll do with it, but I got enough of this. I think it's a fingering weight. Fingering weight, 100% wool. I got enough to hold with one of my many mohairs that I have in stash. I even have some kind of plain neutral ones that again are not the exact same color as this, but to have like a light colored off-white sort of beige with this will make a really nice neutral sweater with a little depth of color to it. I think it's going to be great. And those, I think they were marked down to $10 a piece. So I think it was $20 to get that garment quantity. And that's what I'm going to do. That's kind of how I keep my stash, which I'm planning on talking about in my upcoming stash update video that I have been teasing for like 6 months now. I'm aware that it's been a long time, but it was a lot of work to redo my stash and reorganize and inventory it. And I took all that footage and I've been struggling with like writing the script and like finishing up that video. So I'm hoping to do that this month. Hopefully you've got that coming soon, but no promises because I'm me and I've had a terrible time putting that video out in the past. So anyway, thanks for sticking around. We've made it to the end of the video. And you know what? I'm not always super explicit about it because I think it's a fun little inside secret that we have. It's our little friend group and this is our secret that we keep. But since there's some newcomers here, and hey, if you've made it to this point in the video as a newcomer, wow, thank you. So fun. We call this the end of the video club. And basically it's just a chance for viewers, anybody watching the video, to pipe up and show me what you're working on, because it's not all about my projects. Like maybe that's how we ended up here on this exact web page in this exact moment, but it's supposed to be a conversation. And I really do love getting to see what you guys are working on, either while you're watching the video or just what you're working on in general right now. So if you're so inclined and you would like for me to show one of your projects on here, like I'm showing any of these projects, hit me up. You can either send me a message on Instagram or email me at the email that's in the description box below, and I'll add you, possibly add you to the next end of the video club. Sometimes I only get a couple entries so I can put everybody in. Sometimes I get way too many entries and I have to pick and choose. But either way, I'm so glad you're here. Thank you so much for watching to the end. As always, I love the end of the video club and it's probably my favorite part. I love knowing all the true blue viewers that made it to the end are still here and we're all sharing any projects together. So thanks for sticking around, guys. I can't wait to see you in the next one. Bye. Oh, hey, you're back. Hey, what if I picked you up and you didn't knock the camera over this time? Because, like, I just want to show them what you look like. They don't even know what you look like. They think Annie's my only cat. I got her. This is the longest she's ever sat on someone's lap. Hi. Are you staying? Do you have something to tell the people? I don't think she's ever been up here. You're a funny kid. You know that? What are you looking for? Well, now I find myself in cat limbo, which has happened before, where the podcast is over and I should get up, but I can't because it's illegal to stand up when your cat is on your lap. Okay, I live here now. Good night.